Hello, good day, and welcome to Navigating New Earth with me, Captain Kerry, and I'll share a little story about my name in a bit. Okay, this is a really long overdue video, and yeah, it's now time. I've been meeting so many awake people as I wander around Lancashire over the past weeks, and I've actually had conversations about what on earth is going on. And a question that most people ask me immediately is, how do you know? How do you know what's going on? Like, how do you know this? And it's like, do you have a few hours? So I've decided to just lay down the story of what I've experienced and learned over the past 4.5 years. And as I'm doing this, as I'm recording this video, as I'm speaking now, my heart is just racing. And I've just been putting off this video for such a long time because it involves the Malaysian government and what was done to me in Malaysia. And so actually this video is a legal, lawful statement, witness statement of fact. And if any lawyers are listening, who would like to take this case on against the Malaysian government, well, you know, the criminals that make it up and pretend to be it, the mind controllers, please get in touch with me because I have got so much going on, trying to write a book, 6 books, and trying to, devise workshops and constantly visualizing the future. That's going to be amazing. And it's almost upon us. I really feel it is. I did just pull the sun card for the video because it is, there's a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, a lot of, I think there's going to be something coming through. And that's why I feel this nervous excitement energy. I actually just pressed record to do a practice because I wanted to play a song and I don't quite know how to do it. So if you bear with me, I'm going to see if I can do it. And if I can't, I'll have to start again. But so before I go any further into the story of, what happened in Malaysia, who Malaysia is, how it fits into the world stage. And yeah, then my move back to the UK in 22 August and my experiences here since I've got back. So, but before I get going, because I wanted to just do this to wake myself up. And let me see if I can go back to the beginning and if this works. I hope it does. But here's a little song. King and Country.
I sing, can't speak when we can't breathe. Can't dance if we don't move our feet. It's a blur trying to keep pace. Days are running like they're in a race. Can't move if we're in a wrong way. It's the places we've just walked through. When the walls were half Change and live it out before it's too late. Sweet just telling you what happens. Oh, so what do you so much more. What we got. Better than you, love better. We'll live on forever. If I love better than you, love better. Why we wasting all the time like so much? Question your soul, asked 1,000 times, was uttered.
Well, right, how do I get back to not sharing screen? Oh, here we are. Right, so what are we waiting for indeed? Let me just get my screen back. How do I do this? How do I go back? Sorry, I kind of thought this would happen, so I didn't want to do it, but here we are. Anyway, actually, it's cool. What are we waiting for? That's the question. So, Malaysia 2020 was where I got to know my soul, I guess. Just to point out that question at the end, this is about our soul. And before I do get into this, make no mistake, this is a spiritual battle, but it's an internal one. So there's so many layers. And, before I do really get into it, please know amazing things are coming, and reality is not what we've been told. We don't die, you know. I think the best way to kind of look at this is that we're in a hijacked VR game. Now, it wasn't always a game. It was original from the creator and divine. But whatever the story, whatever the reason, it got hijacked and manipulated, and here we are. And the point is, whether it was intentional to turn Earth into a school, which it kind of was already, just to kind of create a bit of a crazy soul challenging school, or whether, Archon entities came and infiltrated, or the Anunnaki, whether it's the fallen angels and whether they're us or they're not. It doesn't matter. It's like, it doesn't matter who or what kind of consciousness you are throughout the cosmos. Everything's going through a kind of an upgrade. And this is the process that we're in right now. And it's about time, is all I can say. So if you try to kind of like have a little bit of a bigger view, and I know that many people who are new to all of this, to hear things like we don't die and we're in a VR game can be very unsettling and challenging and will make people immediately want to switch off and call me crazy. But the thing is, I'm not the only person talking about this stuff. In fact, I'm kind of a bit late to it. I haven't really put much stuff out there because, you know, there's that 0.% chance that I could be wrong, right? And I think it's healthy as you travel through the cosmos and as your soul is on the journey, and especially coming into a vessel like this, a human vessel on a planet like Earth, going through, through what's happening with Earth at the moment. It's a pretty challenging task. I've kind of lost my tangent, which is why I need to kind of stick to facts and not go too esoteric. But I know it's challenging. But if you keep listening and you listen to my story, which starts from birth, kind of makes sense. And in me telling my story, which I will be doing, and I'm writing books, I've published one. The whole point is to trigger memories and inner standings in you so that you can look at your life and start to analyze how certain things that have happened to you do fit into this kind of new narrative that's coming out about the ascension or the Great Awakening. And you may have heard these terms being bandied about, or you may have just heard it once. It's a real thing. And everything else that's going on is a distraction or is a parting of the ways between good and evil, which is just basically two opposing forces which are becoming so exaggerated in their polarity that, like a cell divides, Earth is somehow it's going to kind of separate into two realities because remember, and that's easy to do because it's happening on a multidimensional level, many frequencies higher than what we are perceiving right now. And what's happening on the planet with people who are waking up, the Great Awakening, is they're recognizing that this is happening, that there's some great shift that's happening on the planet, and all the 3D minutiae to do with the politics and countries and war and division and the people and they're fighting. And, we are one race. Make no mistake. We are a race and we are going to be united in a way that no other race in the cosmos, I think, has ever been united as we come together through this this disclosure that's happening about what's really been going on the planet, who we are, where we are. And it's huge and it's amazing and it's happening. And, I've had so many moments of doubt, but I'm going to explain now what happened to me, what my thought processes were, what was going on within and without, when it all kicked off in March 2020. And I was living in Malaysia at the time, and I'd been there for 22 years. Well, actually, at that point, I'd been there for 20. I moved there in 2001. I was married to a Malaysian Indian gentleman and had two daughters who, at the time of the whole shenanigans, were about 14 and 16 or 13 and 15. They're now 20 and 22. And I was divorced from their father and I was living alone. I had only actually been living alone and had moved out, I think must have been a year and a half before COVID. or that era kicked off, which I actually call the EBS. I believe we are in the EBS. It's just, the tempo is increasing. It couldn't have just been done in 1 2 week period, because how could you have presented all of that information to everyone on the planet? Like, we were expecting all this to happen. I know I'm jumping ahead, but we were expecting what's about to happen 3 years ago. And, so many people have fallen by the wayside because of the time it's taken. But each day that passes makes me realize how huge this was and how infiltrated by the dark, this mind control technology of doom, which basically has, reprogrammed every single person on the planet, regardless, including me. My story is about, my MK Ultra trauma-based programming, which was done to me through my biological parents, and the absence of anyone else around. But that's what my books are about, as David Icke calls it, the Wetiko energy, which has been very, very prevalent and rampant over the past 4.5 years, extremely so. And again, as much as we're in a spiritual battle, make no mistake, the planet is run on spells, black magic, which is basically focused thought of groups of individuals who are against God, are against the natural, divine, organic order of the cosmos. And that's it in a nutshell. That's the fundamental issue that we're dealing with, that we all have to face, because the battleground is each of us. And the only way you win the battle out there is if you first win the battle within. And it takes such a long time for this information to sink in, because we've been taught to focus out there and, to adjust in here in response to what's happening out there. Although response isn't really what people normally do. People normally react. There is a difference, but I'm really jumping too far ahead. I'm jumping into workshop material, which there are workshops which are free and ready to go. So yeah, March 2020. And so I'm sitting on my balcony. I was living in a very heavily built up part of Kuala Lumpur called MK, Mont Kiara, which was affectionately called MK. It was extremely densely built up, lots of Japanese, Koreans, lots and lots of expats, and lots of pyramids on top of all the buildings and apartments, and yeah, some very strange energy. And I lived in a gated community, but it wasn't kind of out, away. It was in the middle of this built up area with, trees, and everyone had a little swimming pool. It was really beautiful little development. But then, as the truth started to come out about what was really going on the planet, and Malaysia is massively naughty, 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 England's little bitch, stationed out. Actually, this is a good time to just geographically help people locate themselves. So we're talking about Southeast Asia, 6 hour flight from Perth in Australia, which is the westernmost part. Malaysia is basically a stolen piece of land from Thailand. So if you think about Thailand, and it is actually important to understand the geography of Malaysia, because it does feature in my story, which features in the big story, especially because of MH370. So you've got Thailand, and it comes down into a kind of a point, and you have Malaysia at this bottom point, and Singapore is the big toe of Malaysia, which is, of course, the financial control AI center. Now, Malaysia and Singapore being the gatekeepers for Southeast Asian islands of Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, or rather the Kingdom of Maharlika, which is what the real name of the Philippines is. And there's gold, there's trafficking, there are thousands upon thousands of islands, and I'm just going to say the word kill room slash kill island. And you can just imagine what the wealthy people do in their summer holidays. If you've been paying any attention to the Epstein stuff, now I don't want to bring that in too much because that's not what we need to focus on. We're focusing on solutions and healing, okay? The media is going to do a job now in bringing out the information. It's really cold, freezing. I turned the heat off so that I would not be picking up any sound, but it is getting pretty cold. Anyway, so that's where Malaysia is, and it's a Commonwealth country. And if you look at, let's just look at Europe's Commonwealth countries, England obviously being one, right? Now, because we're always so distracted, we don't pay attention and delve into pieces of information, especially that which we've received at school through the education system. And so it turns out England is one of three Commonwealth countries. And if you want to pause the video and, you know, have a think about what the other two Commonwealth countries of Europe are, please do. I always ask people this, and people say, oh, Germany, France, Spain, Russia, wow. And I'm like, mm-mm. And they're very interesting, these other two countries, and it's Malta and Cyprus. Strange, isn't it? So Malaysia, UK, and I think Malta and Cyprus are to do with money laundering and stuff. Okay, so I've heard those countries bandied around in elite circles in Malaysia. So yeah. So anyway, I'm sitting on this balcony in this MK Ultra MK area of Malaysia. And it was in the evening, and I had a friend with me who was doing what's called a visa run from Bali, and her name's Teresa. Shout out to Teresa, Quantum Mother T. And we found out we both got messages on our phones because we weren't obviously watching TV, and we were both like, "Hey, oh my God, what's going on?" And we just looked and we were like, "Oh, wait up." And it was supposed to be a 2 week lockdown, wasn't it? And to whatever the curve, flatten the curve of people going, what the holy heck's going on? That's the curve they wanted to flatten. Make no mistake, flatten the curve of anyone that might start speaking out because we both lost our Facebook accounts within days. Like it was insane, just gone, no warnings. Well, actually, sorry, I'm lying. My friend Teresa's Facebook account went immediately. Mine took a couple of weeks, I think. But in that couple of weeks, I did receive messages from a couple of people who I did go and meet up with. One was a galactic astronomer, and she gave me this 20 something page A4, quite small print summary of my galactic history, starting with Sirius B. Now, that's a whole discussion about galactics and consciousness and awareness and creating our reality and all of that. And it gets all very complicated. And I do want to do a separate video after this one, which is called Who Are You? Which is going to invite all of us to really analyze and construct a new we. Okay. But so yeah, I know I'm jumping and I might not finish some of the thoughts, and I'm sorry about that. I know it's annoying. My brain's a million miles an hour, and yeah, slowing it down is quite difficult because there's just so much information to share. So let's just get back to Malaysia. So a whole load of stuff happened, and I actually woke up one morning, probably only a few days into this 2 weeks. I'm not sure. It was a Sunday. And I'm not sure if it was several days after. I feel like the information came out on a Friday or a Thursday, doesn't matter. And I woke up with this absolute knowing that my friend had to leave Malaysia. And what happened later to the immigrants that they were picking up on the street in those early weeks and months or in the lockdown and putting them in cages Yeah. Oof, Malaysia. Wow. So I ended up, it was a horrific, awful series of a day and series of events to get my friend on a flight. And she ended up getting on the very last flight to London. She had nowhere to go, had put out an SOS and thankfully, has worked her way through, I think, Amsterdam, Portugal, Mexico, back to England. And yeah, if she hadn't left at that point, then yeah, she wouldn't have been able to leave the house because the police were up and down, only one person in a car. It would have been really horrific and energetically being both of us aware and I guess now realizing that we had these journeys to go on to become way showers and beacons. Um, we had to be doing that alone. We it was like this, it was kind of crazy. But anyway, so but we kept in touch and we were constantly like most days, what's going on, and analyzing. And at the same time, there was information that was just started coming in. So it wasn't until December of 2020 that I actually joined Telegram groups that were, really talking about all this. And there were all these forums and chats, live chats, like people talking. I mean, I was in them. That was a battleground as well because it had all been infiltrated. The CIA or whoever were waiting for us and knew that we were going to be working stuff out and trying to. Actually, you know what? It wasn't the people talking about what was going on who were banned and deleted and gaslit and attacked by actual people in the chat who were infiltrators and, you know, bait bots and all that. They were deleting people who were trying to talk about anything positive, who were trying to talk about the ascension or, the need to master out your own vessel and reality. In these live chats, I just kept being deleted and attacked and ended up having 700,000 US dollars worth of XRP black magic mind controlled out of my custodianship or guardianship because for me that was I mean that's a whole story how I ended up making that through exchanging Bitcoin for XRP, and it was just crazy what was going on, and there were definite positive energies coming in which I'll get to in a minute. The main reasons why. And I am going to talk about Trump and Q, white hats and the Earth Alliance and all that. And, finally just land on one side of the fence and stick there because I think it's pretty obvious that as co-creators, this is the timeline that we all want to jump on and manifest. And we get to choose which Trump and which Q, because everything has duality. But again, I'm jumping ahead. How did I come to understand all of that? Well, yeah, many of us spent 18 hours a day for the past 4.5 years, either researching, listening to people, talking to people, meditating, or ruminating and reflecting and observing and visualizing what we want in the future. And we've just all, the people I talk to, we're all channeling our own information from our own higher self that can see just a bit of more of the bigger picture because we've gone through the fear, we've let go of the fear, and we're taking charge of our lives, right? And the more we do that, the more doubt will come in because we are under attack. It's what I call a frequency war. And as those of us who began to wake up, started to wake up, we were being attacked with the frequencies. But I also know that there was a lot of protection. So, so yeah, information started to come in on Twitter. I was following a guy called Billy Don I Am, and he basically summed up everything about being a sovereign, spiritual, cosmic being. And he was posting stuff about, the stone giants and about portals and stargates, and how we are eternal beings having a we're eternal spiritual beings having a human existence. And just something about what he said and the way he said it made me just have a stirring, because it was like, oh, I know this is true, but is it really? And how? But that curiosity was piqued, and so I'm going down this rabbit hole of spiritual beings having a human experience and being eternal, and how we're in this kind of archonic angelic war. And then I started to find out very early on, I came across a lady called Ashiana Dean. I am going to make a list of anything that I bring up to add in this description box. There's no point trying to share Billy Don because he's gone. He just kind of disappeared. But Ashiana Dean, and she had been talking and touring around, I think the world. Her husband was English, who I think might have been a kind of handler. They were kind of, they got married as she was doing her tour, and she's kind of gone quite quiet. But Ashiana Dean was talking about something called the human angelic race, and how we had 12 strands of DNA, which we know we do have the 12 possible strands, right? We've got 12 strands of DNA, all of us. It's only that two of them are switched on. And then the science calls the rest of it junk DNA, but it's not junk, it's just inactive. And if you think about the medical intervention that was given recently, it was originally called gene therapy. It was the mRNA. And if you've only got two strands of DNA, because the rest have been switched off throughout our galactic history on what has now been understood to be up until now, the prison planet, which is a frequency prison, so that we can't access the other strands of DNA, you'll understand how this is a spiritual war to separate us from our source and our knowing. And we are waking up, and it seems as though it was a ploy, just a kind of a spiteful ploy to stop as many people waking up in a natural way as possible. But you know what? That's just one theory. There's many other theories, and the ultimate get out clause is that they're all viable theories. Okay, I'll talk about it another time, about the timelines and how we choose our timeline through our frequency. And also why I choose the kind of Q Trump timeline to kind of focus my attention on, because that's the one that if we all jump on it, we all can steer into, Trump being this kind of face of a worldwide military operation to remove evil on levels and in places that you cannot even imagine that they exist. But I can. And that's how I know this is all real, because I just know evil. I know it. And it's just the perfect plan. And like I said, each day that goes by, I'm more positive that this is happening, and it makes more sense. And in fact, if it's all coming out now, it's only taken, let's say, 5 years. That's pretty remarkable. And also show, don't tell. That's what they teach you when you become a writer and you're trying to write. You can't tell somebody something. The military couldn't have just done a worldwide coup, although they kind of did. But what we've experienced over the past 4.5 years is a trap, and we are fighting back using their law against them because they've broken their own so-called laws, and they are not above it. And also bringing in the Constitution, recognizing the fake law, the use of Black's dictionary, the illegal language of legalese that nobody's taught unless you pass the bar, kind of thing. We've been completely duped. And going back to March 2020, I think, it's like the boyfriend who's got so used to cheating on you that he starts to get a bit sloppy, gets a bit arrogant. Or actually, it's like the guy who stole the 700,000 and then was eating into my gold and silver that I'd bought as a custodian to hold it. And I was even selling that and sending it, and under a complete mind control spell, even though I thought I was awake. And then he messages me one day and he says, "Oh, the pipes have burst in my house and my kids and me. It's terrible," because, his wife and him had separated because of the masks and he was really fighting. His name's Jerry. I can't remember his surname. He goes by the name of 117% in the name of We the People. And he has a very hypnotic voice because he's part Archon. He's a huge black guy. I mean, huge. I don't even know if he can walk. Huge. The first time I saw him, I was in such shock, and I still was in this fog of thinking that he was a positive ET. But you know what? I will share later the one thing he said 5 words to me that really got into my pineal gland and my heart and were worth everything. Um, and those 5 words were: the feeling is the manifestation. And everything that I've learned, like, that is it. That's the key. And so it was kind of worth everything. And I sometimes wonder if he was a positive entity who was sent to trigger me, test me, and also push me to the first step of ascension. Because when that happened, and this is all part of the story of my past 4.5 years, I know I'm jumping around, but that was when I was still in Malaysia. So we're going back 3 years nearly. Maybe just a bit less. I was so distraught. And at the same time, my sister, who has been, again, an opposing force in the whole of my life through no fault of her own, she's been possessed by frequencies. And I'm going to get into that whole thing. Satan, what is Satan? Is it real? It's as real as you make it. It's all within. But yeah, my sister had called up at the exact same time as I was kind of going, because this guy's telling me that his water pipes burst, and he's like, "I need you to send me money today." And I'm like, okay, I think it was a message, and can't call him because I could never call him really. He would call me when it suited him, but we used to message, and I just had this feeling he was in the military. It was just very, very strange, very, very, very strange. And as I'm going downstairs to get some coffee, because I've just woken up to this, I'm thinking, no way. Oh, what a wanker. And I was in shock. And then I messaged him to say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, sure. What do you need?" Because I needed to get in touch with him. I didn't want to like attack him. I was in this frozen slow-mo phase. And then he calls up because he's gonna mither me to, "You've got to do it now, come on. I thought you were for humanity. I thought you wanted to do the right thing. I thought you said that that money was for helping humanity. Well, charity begins at home. And do you love me? And do you trust me?" I mean, God Almighty, he really knew exactly how to access my subconscious through MK Ultra techniques. And I fully understood what had happened. And he's on the phone, and my soul comes in to my body, and my ego body cannot handle it, like it has happened to me so many times in my life. And I just literally started yelling down the phone, "What the? I mean, and then he starts yelling at me, "No, you listen." And it was this, and my daughter was with me, and she gets up, she's like, "Mom, what's going on?" And I'd hung up or he'd hung up and I just deleted everything, which I shouldn't have done because it was all evidence, right, of this crime that had been committed. But it was, I recognize it to be a spiritual thing. And I was so, and then my sister calls and she's saying awful things about my nephew and she's talking about paedophilia and being really awful to me. And I've had many times in my life where I've thought I was going to explode or implode or both, and suddenly just poof, not exist. And there's been many, many times that I've actually wanted that to happen. And I've also known it never will. Well, because we don't die. I think I always knew that. So committing suicide wasn't really an option. I might have wanted not to be here, but I was never going to kill myself because on some level, I knew I'd still be here going, oh, yeah, okay, I gotta recycle back and do that again because you don't do that, any killing at all. And and so I went to bed and I lay on my bed and I closed my eyes and I had to breathe really strong as if I was running a marathon to stay alive. I think to stop myself having a heart attack or a stroke because of the energy and the feeling of rage, pure rage, not just at him, but at my father, family members, so-called friends, everybody I'd ever worked with. 99% of people that I came across had kind of screwed me over in some way, had walked over me, misused my kindness and my openness and my innocence. And it was this realization, and I knew that I had to just go within and I had to block every single thing out. And this also happened some months before when I'd been put all over the news. But ironically, in that kind of spiritual battle, the guy that had just screwed me over was by my side for he was on the phone the whole 14 hours of that ordeal. So I do have to question. And I came to realize that, there are you can look at things in infinite ways. And on earth, we tend to look at things as either good or evil. We're stuck in just, it's this or that. There's only two choices. And that's why we're all stuck in life, because we never entertain multiple choices, as I'm doing in my life. And the danger of that is you don't ever settle on something. I'm pretty sure I pulled the Seven of Cups earlier. I do a little spread now and again just as messages, and that's me. It's like I want to reform education. I want to reform the health industry. I want to teach people. I want to do workshops. I want to sing a light song album. I've got awesome tunes coming in my head all the time, whole symphonies of trance dance, awesome transformative music. I mean, I don't know. I want to have a farm. There's just so many things, but I know that it's for me to give these ideas to other people to run with them. That's okay. Danger now, I've lost where I'm at. But anyway, I had no choice but to go within. And as I'm breathing really hard, I didn't realize that I'm activating my vagus nerve. And I was actually doing what Joe Dispenza calls, um, well, it's about activating your pineal. And it's to do with the mechanics of the breath and holding your breath and releasing the breath to put pressure on the pineal to activate the crystal, which is then going to activate the rest of your body to create the correct electromagnetic protective field around you so that nothing that's in the external environment can actually penetrate that. You're creating a protective bubble like Glinda in The Wizard of Oz. And this is what they don't want us to do. Our natural electromagnetic bubble should be, at least arm's length around you. You should probably be able to just reach out and touch where the edge of it is, or put out your leg and touch where the edge of it is. And that's your bubble, that's your sphere. And they're like little atoms, they kind of bounce off each other, never actually overtaken Anyway, it doesn't matter. So our bubble's been decreased, and but the heart is what has, is the vortex that creates this electromagnetic energy around you. And when it's in a switched on, open state of love, baby. And this is why, you know, everything that's in your environment that you hear is usually doom and gloom because the information coming in affects your frequency, affects your vibration. I mean, is anyone going to argue about with that? No. And this is important because, coming on to the whole Q Trump thing and the MAGA movement, um, which should be mega, make Earth great again. Um, it's really important to bear in mind and remember that we are in a frequency war. And if you do go and look at, the people that support, that side and I know politics isn't important, but this isn't about politics. What's going on in America is nothing to do with politics and everything to do with freeing humanity from the serpent clutches, in brackets, of our own egos. Basically, we've allowed this. Everything we're seeing in the world, we've allowed. So there's no judgment and blame because it's our fault if there is a fault. We've allowed this to happen. You can't sit there and say, bemoan the fate of the children and say, oh, I don't want to hear about that because it offends my sensibilities and it brings my vibe down. Yeah, I get that. Okay, we'll talk about it later, but we can't ignore it because we knew it was happening on some level and we didn't do anything. We wore the trainers and the tracksuits and, we went to all those shitty shops. I tell you, in Malaysia, there was a shop called Forever 21 and it was in this mall called Mega Mall. Oh, God, the amount of hours I spent traipsing there because it's so hot and humid in Malaysia. You don't really do anything other than go in malls and breaks my heart that I wasn't in the jungle trekking and, anyway, it doesn't matter. I had to go in those places to transmute the energy. So I was happy to be of service. Still am. I am here to be of service without a question. So where was I? Frequencies. Yeah. So, oh yeah, Forever 21. And I used to go in the shop and it kind of stretched towards the back of the mall. And on the other side of the wall was a big Indian temple. So I'm assuming there was a demon in the basement, some demonic energy or some dodgy, shady shit going on because you'd go into this Forever 21 and I'd immediately get so agitated. But of course, I'm thinking it's me. I'm not recognizing. I didn't realize at the time that the energy in the clothes, the suffering, where it was. And I used to just start exploding. I'd be like, I'd get angry and it would just come out. My soul would be like, but it wasn't coming out the right way, right? Because I'm still dealing with my vessel, the body, which only knows how to express extreme things in an extreme way. It's not able to take a breath and transmute and allow it out at that time. And now I look back and it's like, oh my gosh, I know now what I was feeling. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't a bipolar, schizophrenic, mood disordered individual. I was just unable to process extreme amounts of chaotic, low frequency energy, which was somehow through the technology that they used on me. And I'm talking about behavior and, when I say technology, I don't want people to think of actual metal computer, whatever, I don't know, electrodes and stuff, although that may have happened. It's more the, you know, sexual molestation from a parent and knowing that the other one pretty much has a clue it's going on, but it was all done in ways before the age of 2, I can't remember. And I know that sounds crazy because everyone says that no one can remember, but I do remember certain things. I remember everything, but there are certain things I don't remember. And I think that's where my soul blacked out. And I suspect possibly at age 2, the voice talking now is a kind of a walk-in. Um, which has been having to do battle with the cellular memory damage that was done because of the extreme horror and mind controlling trauma that was experienced before the age of 2. So I feel like I've been battling my body, my ego, physical, limited human self. It's very strange. It's been a really weird 54 years, to be honest. And it's still controlling me to a certain extent, but I just allow that and work around it and just keep focusing on the light and remembering who we are because, this is, like I said, it's disclosure, the Great Awakening. So, gosh, I mean, I might have lost my track there, but I think I'm being prompted to just jump into the whole black magic thing as well because it is, the English language is spoken widely in Malaysia as well. I'm actually going to do a part 2 and have a listen to what I've done. I'm also kind of starting to kind of not be able to focus on the 3D story because I want to keep going off and talking about these higher dimensional concepts and stuff, but I also know that it's one step at a time, innit? So yeah, okay, what I'll do is I'm going to come back and return in part 2 with the story of what actually happened with the when I went viral. Um, Aaron Dior was born. Um, and what happened in that. And then that leads into time travel or timeline jumping via your frequency, which is what I was talking about. And I'm going to finish with this bit. So, yeah, there I was on my bed, and I'm doing this weird heavy breathing because I had to breathe as much oxygen. I had to expand my lungs as much as I could and keep doing that to stop my heart from just collapsing. And the next thing I knew, I don't know if I had held my breath and then on a big release, the whole of my body started to vibrate. Like it was just rushing. Like when you get pins and needles, or you're part of your something's gone to sleep and you let it go and the blood comes rushing in, right? And it feels really strange. Well, it was like that, but multiply it by a lot and add in some feelings of joy and peace and bliss, but on a kind of a turned down, muted scale. But I was aware that if I was to stay in this space and work with my breath and empty my mind and push everything away, that I would somehow be able to activate something in my solar plexus using the vibration that my heart was creating and the 3 lower chakras to ground it into the earth through my physical being, but drawing in the light from the ether through the crown, and then using my third eye to actually decide what I wanted to do with that energy, rather than that energy just being sucked all the way down into, because your heart's going to be the generator of the energy, the frequency that's going to attract that which you desire. Although, first of all, do you even know what you desire? And that's why the next topic video is who are you? Working out, you know, what do you really want in your life by examining the things that you haven't wanted and letting those go. Because it is time now. It's time to step into the basket of the hot air balloon and to, sail to different climes. But it's all within our minds. We're gonna create heaven on earth right where we are. We're not running anywhere. We're not going to a different country or even a different house at this point. It's time to wake up, open your eyes, and very calmly have a look around you and start to write down everything that's around you and give it a score out of 10 of how much in alignment that is to joy or happiness or peace. Just start there. You might not know who you are, but if you're listening to this and you're following me and you have some compassion for things that have happened, not just to people like me, but to yourself, because we've all been through it, then you will understand what I'm talking about and it will make sense. And we are here to co-create and help each other. And, you know, this is how it was always meant to be, when you're in school and you're looking at other people's artwork or, oh, what did you write? What color are you using? And we get a bit jealous. Oh, yours is really nice. And we get inspired to make ours better. That's what we're doing. We're all kids in a gigantic classroom, a cosmic classroom. And we have a big blank sheet of paper in front of us. And what are we going to color it with? Well, if you stay plugged into the matrix, you're going to be receiving the dark goo, black octopus tentacle information of doom and war. And, if you were to give a piece of paper to a load of messed up kids right now, they'd just go, ah, and they'd scribble all over it and it'd all be black and demon faces coming out. And not, probably just loads of videos of what they see, sorry, pictures of what they see when they're playing their games, their video games, and all distraction, all distraction. So yeah, that's what it's about, and that's ultimately what I want to teach people is to be able to just breathe and let go and have a big blank canvas and start to just draw some flowers. In fact, I'm really being called to start doing these mandalas. I might show you that quickly. Actually, I can't, can I? How do I change the thing? I'm going to work that out before I do the next video and I'll show you the mandala. I'm going to write it down because I think it's actually important. Instead of having your own personal flag, you can create a geometric representation of your soul as your soul signature. And my soul's name that as you would pronounce it, is Damashmi. And I'm currently writing a affidavit, a statement of fact that I am the soul Damashimi. Currently kind of working with the fiction, the legal fiction, Kerry, the entity, the 3D being known as Kerry. That's a whole thing. I wouldn't even want to try and go down that road. I'd prefer you to go and check out other people like Richard Vobes. If you haven't seen Richard Vobes, please check him out. I'm actually going to be interviewing him on the 5th of November. Super excited about that because I love him. I think he's awesome for people waking up, right? And I do want to kind of ask him about some of the more spiritual things. So I think it'll be really interesting. Right. Okay. So yeah, about activating the vessel. And I probably need to do another video just focusing on that. Okay. So yeah, I've no idea how long I've been going. I think it's a while. I did get up at 5:15, I think it was. It's now 7:45. But I did ruminate for about an hour, I think, trying to psych myself up. And then I thought I'll do a practice. But anyway, you're probably absolutely sick of hearing me talking about the doubt and the fear, and it's time to let go. I know I've got to have my own, alternative TV show. I just know it as part of, one of the things I'm going to juggle, because I didn't do English and drama for nothing. And yeah, I've got a message and I'd love to present it in a more entertaining way. So yeah, watch this space. For those who have been, you're like, we've been watching it for a while. It's been a few years. Anyway, everything in good timing. All right, so I'm just gonna leave you with, I think I might have been meant to be leaving you with something and I've jumped onto other things. Need to gather my selves, my multi-dimensional selves. So I'm going to return with the continuation of my Malaysia story, and what happened with the media and when I went viral. And then it will be about how I then returned to the UK, not because of that, but I just somehow had this crazy idea that things will be a lot better in England and that I could reconnect with my family. And well, was I in for a shock? But had to experience it to say, this is ridiculous. If not me, who? If not now, when? And so I've literally been pounding the streets and the pubs and the supermarkets and the cafes and the streets. And I've been talking to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And lately, Yeah, there is a huge change, which is kind of how I started off the video, I think. People are waking up. And look, honestly, if you're listening to this and you're still like, oh my God, she's fucking crazy, girl, guy, boyfriend, I don't know, whatever you want, whatever your words are, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to get with the cool club. And I'm not joking. I'm not selling anything. I'm not here to sell anything. I've got a book, sure, it's 13 quid or 10 quid, I don't know. I earn not very much. It costs me a fiver. It's insane. So much gets taken out, and writing books is not a way to make money. And my book that I've published and the ones I'm about to do are actually witness statements for the courts of heaven, which are going to be here on earth. And anyone that reads my book will understand how the Wetiko frequency bullshit of doom worked on us all. And I am not the only child who has, I mean, it's literally at least every other family, it's crept in on some level. And if it's not acted on, it's in the energetic air. And this is what we have to overcome. And we do that by forgiveness. And we gotta let that shit go. We need to get over it, face it, heal it, get over it, and burn it because we don't want that shit. You can't enter the higher frequencies. You can't become your higher self if you're holding on to shady shit. And, it's going to be, I definitely will require some form of advanced technological healing to help me because as much as I've done tons of work, there is this little, but then I know there's a couple of people that I know who will say, Kerry, that's just a belief. And yeah, I can probably, and have been dismantling the technology that has been built up. But I also know that through sharing my message, and when you see people who get it and they switch on and they go, I mean, I've had a couple of women recently because I've been talking to kind of groups of people, it's been strange. It's like they kind of gather around only in the past week. It's happened a few times, but there's just a different energy. I can feel that people are open. And one lady came back from her friends and she said, the others don't quite get it. She said, but I know exactly where you're coming from. And keep going. And I'm like, I will. And it's happened a few times, and they're like little other beacons. And I just see now that more and more people are open to, well, maybe there's something to it. And what I'm here to say, as I also talk about the, Mr. T and Q and all that, I'm not here to argue, debate. I don't care. I do care, but I don't care what idiots think because at this point, it's slap across the face time. We've told you, and we're not telling you again. Keep doing that, and you're going to get in trouble. And when it happens, they're all going to come running along. Ah, help! The big boogie monster is after me. And we're going to be like, it's okay. It's not real. Anyway, I go a million miles an hour. I do apologize, but like I say, you can slow the video down. Um, right, I'm going to go and I might do the rest of it later and it might have a completely different energy to it. It might be a bit more just to the facts of what happened in Malaysia with the media. I'm repeating myself over and over again. This is crazy. Just need to get off and sort this. I think there's just a lot of energy coming through, and I'm kind of, yeah, I probably need to breathe to allow the energy to settle. But yeah, we are in this frequency energetic thing. So for anyone that's feeling weird and dizzy and your heart does weird things and you're a lot more reactive or you notice people just doing strange things, it's kind of normal. You know, there's a lot more going on than we know. And they've tried to stop it, but nothing can stop what is coming. I'll be back for part 2.